You've probably been told that the path to wealth is paved with hard work, honest savings, and patient investing. But what if that was a carefully crafted lie? A story the powerful tell to keep you playing a game they designed for you to lose. 500 years ago, a philosopher wrote the real rulebook for money and power, a guide so ruthless it was officially condemned by the church. What if the secret to building real wealth lies in these forbidden strategies? Welcome to Machiavelli's Dark Rules of Money and Power. In this video, we're unlocking those secrets and showing you how the 1% still use them to shape our world. For 5 centuries, one name has been shorthand for everything dark and treacherous in the pursuit of power: Niccolò Machiavelli. His most famous work, The Prince, wasn't just a book, it was a manual for the mechanics of control, a guide for rulers on how to seize power and, more importantly, how to keep it. Written in 1513, during a time of brutal political warfare in Renaissance Italy, it was a work of shocking realism. And honor, and laid bare the cold, hard machinery of influence. The book was so explosive it was condemned by the Pope and placed on the Catholic Church's official index of forbidden books. But while the public was forbidden from reading it, the book was being secretly passed around the private chambers of kings, popes, and emperors. And today, its principles are still the silent gospel for many of the world's most powerful figures, in boardrooms, political dynasties, and the gated estates of the ultra-wealthy. They understand what the rest of us are taught to ignore, that money and power don't follow the rules of fairness we learn in school. They follow a different, much darker set of laws. We're going to dissect these laws, one by one, using the historical examples Machiavelli saw with his own eyes and the modern applications you see every day. And make sure you stick around, because the final rule we're going to break down is the master key to all the others. It's the one fundamental truth about human nature that, once you see it, will change how you view the world forever. Section 1. The foundation. Who was Machiavelli? To understand the rules, you first have to understand the man and the world that made him. He wasn't some evil genius scribbling in a dark room. Niccolò Machiavelli was a real-world, high-ranking diplomat for the Republic of Florence. For 14 years, he had a front-row seat to the lethal Game of Thrones that was Renaissance Italy, a chaotic chessboard of warring city-states, treacherous alliances, and constant backstabbing. He met with kings, negotiated with popes, and studied the tactics of the most successful and ruthless leaders of his time. Then, his world collapsed. The powerful Medici family swept back into Florence, dissolved the republic he served, and Machiavelli, now associated with the old regime, was arrested, tortured, and thrown out of public life. It was in this forced retirement, desperate to regain a position of influence, that he wrote The Prince. In essence, it was the most audacious job application in history, dedicated to the new Medici ruler. He wasn't writing about how the world should be, he was writing about how it is. He was offering the Medici the unvarnished truth about power, based on his years of observation. He believed that to succeed, a leader must see the world as it truly operates, not as we wish it would. This separation of the foundation of every rule that follows. Section 2. The first dark rule: the ends justify the means. Let's start with the most famous idea tied to Machiavelli: the ends justify the means. Now, he never actually wrote that exact phrase, but it perfectly captures his core logic. The rule is simple: a leader responsible for the security of a state, or a company, or a family, can't be bound by the same moral code as an ordinary citizen. When survival is at stake, the outcome is all that matters. Actions like deception or force, which might seem immoral in a private context, can become necessary virtues for a leader. Machiavelli's role model for this was Cesare Borgia, a brilliant and utterly ruthless duke carving out a kingdom for himself in Italy. Borgia was known for his cruelty and for breaking any promise that got in his way. In one famous incident, he needed to pacify a newly conquered territory. He sent in a notoriously harsh governor, Ramiro de Orco, to do the dirty work, crushing rebellions and ruling through fear. Once the region was under control and the people despised the governor, Borgia had the man dragged into the town square, put on a show trial, and publicly executed, cut in half, to be exact. With one move, he got the stability he wanted through cruelty, then won the people's loyalty by punishing the man who served his purpose. The means were horrific. But the end? A stable, unified state. For Machiavelli, this was a masterclass in effective leadership. In the modern world, this rule plays out constantly. Think of a CEO who lays off thousands to save a company from bankruptcy. The act causes immense suffering. But if it prevents the entire company from collapsing, saving thousands of other jobs, is it justified from the CEO's perspective? Think of the brutal tactics used in hostile takeovers or the aggressive strategies that build monopolies. The public may call it unfair, but from a Machiavellian perspective, victory is the only morality that matters. Section 3. The second dark rule: it is better to be feared than loved. So Machiavelli poses a timeless question: if a leader can't be both loved and feared, which should they choose? His answer is blunt: it's much safer to be feared. But because love, he argues, is fickle. It relies on goodwill, something you can't control. Fear, on the other hand, is held in place by a dread of punishment, something you can control. Now, this isn't about being a tyrant. Machiavelli is clear: you have to avoid being hated. Hatred leads to rebellion. Hatred is caused by seizing property and messing with people's families. As Machiavelli chillingly wrote, "Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony." The key is to inspire fear based on respect for your power, not hatred based on injustice. The great Medici banking family were masters of this balance. On one hand, they were the greatest patrons of the Renaissance, funding art and architecture that made them beloved. But their real power came from being the bankers to popes and kings across the continent. Every ruler and nobleman who owed them money knew the Medici could financially ruin them. That undercurrent of fear, the power to destroy, was far more reliable than the public's affection. In today's world, this principle is the very foundation of credit and debt. A bank doesn't lend you money because it loves you. It lends you money because you fear the consequences of not paying it back. On a personal level, think of a tough but fair boss. The team might not love them, but they fear more consistently than a desire to be friends with the boss. Section 4. The third dark rule: appearances matter more than reality. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are. This is one of Machiavelli's most profound observations. He knew that most people never see the full story. We judge leaders, companies, and powerful people based on what we see, their public image. Therefore, the art of power becomes the art of managing perception. A leader, he said, must appear merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious. The key word is appear. Whether you actually are those things is less important. In fact, he argues that always practicing those virtues is a weakness that will get you crushed in a world where others don't play by those rules. A leader has to be ready to act against these virtues when it's necessary to survive, but they must always maintain the appearance of having them. This is basically the playbook for modern public relations and personal branding. We live in an age where image is everything. Politicians stage photo ops to appear as wholesome family men. Corporations spend billions on green advertising to seem environmentally responsible, even while their factories might be polluting. Billionaires launch high-profile charities, creating an image of generosity that can overshadow questionable business practices. They understand this dark rule instinctively. The story you tell about yourself is more important than what you actually do, because the story is what most people will believe. If you're finding these dark insights into wealth and power valuable, take a moment to show your support. Like this video and subscribe to Wealth Saga for more deep dives into the strategies that shape our world. Section 5. The fourth dark rule: never let a crisis go to waste. Where most people see chaos and danger in a crisis, the Machiavellian mind sees a ladder. Machiavelli saw that the biggest leaps in power happen during times of instability. A crisis shatters old rules and creates a power vacuum, and that's when someone bold and decisive can step in. While everyone else is panicking, The master of power is looking for the opportunity that the chaos has created. A crisis gives you the perfect cover. People are scared and desperate for order. They become far more willing to give up freedoms and accept radical changes in exchange for a feeling of security. A leader can use the urgency of the moment to push an agenda that would be impossible in times of peace. You see this rule with every market crash. While most people are panic selling their stocks at a loss, the smartest investors, Warren Buffetts of the world, are quietly buying up great companies for pennies on the dollar. They understand panic creates the single greatest opportunity for a massive transfer of wealth. We saw it during the 2020 pandemic. While many businesses struggled, companies in logistics, remote work, and at-home entertainment exploded by capitalizing on the new normal. They didn't create the crisis, but they knew how to harness its energy. The lesson here is that stability can be the enemy of ambition. Empires are both the lion and the fox. Machiavelli wrote that a leader must learn from two animals, the lion and the fox. The lion represents strength and force. He can scare off the wolves, your obvious enemies. But the lion is also easily tricked and can walk right into a trap. The fox, on the other hand, is clever enough to see the traps. But the fox is too weak to fight off the wolves. You can't be just one. You have to be both. This is all about strategic duality. It means knowing when to use brute force and when to use cunning and diplomacy. A leader who is 100% honest, Machiavelli warns, is doomed because they're playing against people who aren't. To survive, you must understand the art of the lie, the broken promise, and subtle misdirection. It doesn't mean being dishonest just for the sake of it, but recognizing that deception is a tool to be used with precision when necessary. In business, this is critical. The lion is your leverage, your money, your market position, your power to just walk away from the table. But the fox is your strategy. It's the art of not revealing your true bottom line, of making a competitor think you are stronger or weaker than you actually are. The best deal makers aren't just aggressive, they're masters of information warfare. They know when to roar like a lion to intimidate, and when to tread silently like a fox to lay a trap. Section 7. The final and most dangerous rule. See man as he is. And that brings us to the final rule. This isn't just a tactic, it's the core philosophy that makes all the other rules work. It's the most dangerous secret of all. You have to see people for who they really are, not who you wish they were. According to Machiavelli, human nature isn't good. He says that people are generally ungrateful, fickle, liars, and greedy, always looking out for themselves first and running from danger. This is the brutal truth that polite society pretends not to see. If you accept that bleak assessment, all the other rules suddenly make perfect, logical sense. You have to rule through fear because love is unreliable in selfish creatures. You must control appearances because people judge by the surface. You must be willing to use deception because people themselves are natural liars. Trying to lead people as if they were angels, in Machiavelli's view, is the fastest way to get destroyed. According to Machiavelli, human nature isn't good. He says that people are generally ungrateful, fickle, liars, and greedy, always looking out for themselves first and running from danger. This is the brutal truth that polite society pretends not to see. If you accept that bleak assessment, all the other rules suddenly make perfect, logical sense. You have to rule through fear because love is unreliable in selfish creatures. You must control appearances because people judge by the surface. You must be willing to use deception because people themselves are natural liars. Trying to lead people as if they were angels, in Machiavelli.